So Jimmy Dore made a ridiculous comment about how sort of condescending, people who think that we're a democracy are idiots. He didn't say that. That's a sentiment that he was giving across. Any political commentator who suggests that we don't have a democracy doesn't really know what they're talking about. But let me first of all address the folks brainwashed by right-wing media who are going to come in and say we're not a democracy. When people say we're a democracy, they're not talking about direct democracy. When right-wingers try to manipulate you into thinking we're not a democracy, that is the game that they're playing. They do a straw man argument. They pretend as if people who say democracy are referring to direct democracy. And then since we're not a direct democracy, they make that argument to you that, hey, those idiot liberals think we're a democracy and we're not talking about a direct democracy, right? We have a hybrid form of government. We are a democratic republic, right? If you're conservative, the media you consume will focus on the republic side of things. We're a republic, those liberals think that we're a democracy. Like, this is nonsense. We are a democratic republic, right? Our government is based on forms of the concept of republic and also forms of the concept that we call democracy. We have both elements. And it's ridiculous that we have these debates in 2022 with the information age. We got all this information online, and yet we have to waste time still having debates about basic concepts. Google the word democracy and Google the word republic. See what the definition says, and you tell me where you see a problem. Now, if you're really dishonest, you're gonna play games and try to make it a perfect thing. If it's not exactly as it's written in the dictionary, then that's not what it is. Listen, our government is not, it's not some digital thing. It's not like a black and white thing. It's precisely this one thing. It's a general concept. It's very complex. There's a lot of moving pieces to it. So when you look at those definitions, you want to look at the general idea of what is being presented, and then see if it matches, even if loosely, what we have as a form of government. But anyway, so we are absolutely a democracy, right? Not a direct democracy, but we are definitely a democracy. And ironically, the conversation that Jimmy Dore was having is a demonstration of how we are a democracy, right? They were talking about student loan debt forgiveness, right? They were talking about how basically the Democrats, again, tricked their base into, this progressive rhetoric. We're going to forgive student loan debt. First of all, he ran on this stuff, right? And then he gets in power, and all of a sudden he doesn't want to talk about it at all, right? Because that was never the plan. Then when things get really bad, he gets desperate. Then all of a sudden he wants to say, we're gonna forgive debt, or we're gonna forgive student loan debt or whatever. So now he starts talking about it, right? It's all a game, right? An argument was being made by Jimmy Dore and Sabby Sabs, which I am inclined to agree with in terms of, and I said this, right? When they were talking about student loan forgiveness and all the other stuff, I've always said this, even before this was discussed, I've always said that this is what the Democrats do, right? When they have power to do things, they come up with excuses not to do it, right? And they will also play the game of basically pretending to do things, right? So for example, when they're out of power, I'm probably expecting a lot of aggressive bills to be proposed, because the idea is, the Republicans are going to block it. So you get the credit of like talking the talk, like we wanted this and we're going to voting rights or whatever it is, right? Knowing that the Republicans are going to block it, right? But you get the political points from it, right? So same idea. You talk about student loan debt, right? Vote for me, student loan debt. Then you got elected, you're president. Then you stop talking about it because that was never a serious thing, right? And then when the polls get very, very bad and it's towards the end, the midterms are coming up, all of a sudden then you start like, okay, we've got to make this fraud more elaborate, right? So let's actually start going through the motions. Before it was just pure talk, let's actually go through the motions as if we're going to actually do this stuff, right? Even I look at like the January 6th stuff. I mean, the idea of holding an elite, the elites holding an elite accountable, like I don't have a lot of faith in that, right? I would expect them to sort of drag their feet and wait till the last minute, knowing that they're probably going to lose in the midterms and the Republicans get in power and they block whatever they're doing, right? For all this blustering about, oh, Trump is a threat to democracy or whatever, he's an elite just like them, right? And elites have an allegiance to other elites, right? It is us who they really reject, right? We are the ones who they don't really have much respect for and care for, in my view. But here's the reality. So let me explain to people how democracy works and why I say we absolutely have a democracy. And it's ridiculous for anyone who is a political commentator to suggest otherwise. First of all, as I've always said, democracy is self-service. It is not automatic. This ridiculous idea of some kind of savior, we're going to vote for some savior and they're going to, out of the goodness of their heart, just deliver, what we want and deliver for the people. That is absurd. Any adult, right? Any adult who is reasonable in their thinking, who recognizes the reality of human nature, who recognizes the realities in this country, would know that the idea of that is absurd. Anyone who is willing to accept the reality of our history, right, would never think that that's the way it goes. Look at our dark past and look at the journey that it took for us to get to where we are now. What part of that was automatic? Did women get the right to vote just automatically because some politician felt that that's the right thing to do? Did slavery get abolished because politicians felt that that was the right thing to do? Everything that we've accomplished, we the people, everything that we've accomplished in terms of getting our government to deliver for us came because we fought for it. Democracy is not automatic. The reason why student loan forgiveness is probably going to go down in flames like I had predicted is because we the people do not demand or require it of the Democratic Party. The Republican base demands what they want from their politicians. Those on the left would say the things they demand are foolish. We think that they are misguided. But regardless of your opinion about whether they're foolish or not, they demand those things. And if they don't get what they want, they are very willing to fire their politicians. They will go to war against their politicians for the things that they want, right? If you are a Republican governor in the middle of the pandemic and there's all these lockdowns and maybe a vaccine mandate, and you go along with that and you're like, we're going to lock it down and we're going to mandate vaccines, you will be destroyed, right? So while the left has a lot of, comments to make about, conservatives and this and that and whatever, and I would agree with them on many things they say, I would say glass house, right? While you're busy mocking them, right? Look at yourselves. At least they're willing to fight for what they believe in. And because democracy is a real thing, they are getting the things that they want. Look at how many bills were passed by Republicans while the Democrats were in power. That is democracy. The Republicans know that if they don't deliver on the things that I would call foolishness that their base wants, they will get destroyed. The Democrats do not have such a threat. The Democrats knew that they could run on student loan forgiveness, get elected, not really talk about it at all, and no major consequence. Yes, you're going to have a suppression of votes. People aren't going to be as motivated. But even when Democrats lose, they still win. If they lost the midterms, AOC would still be wealthy and getting wealthier by the minute, growing her fan base, and she would be able to go on vacation for at least 2 years because the Democrats can't actually do anything once Republicans take majority, right? So the reality is there's little incentive of the Democrats to deliver on student loan debt and all this kind of stuff. Now, things got bad enough that they needed to put on a better pretense, right? So they actually went through the motions of like, we're gonna actually forgive this student loan debt. Sabi Sab suggests that it was done in a way to fail. I think that's a very logical assessment. That's probably what they did, right? But why would they do that? They would do that because we are in a democracy, right? We are in a democracy. And so what that means is our government will do just about everything that the people demand. There is no demand that you must forgive student loan debt. It's something a lot of people desire, and they'll tweet about it. But are they going to do major direct action? Thousands in the street? Are they going to be like, we won't vote for you if you don't support? No, they're not. And because of the way democracy works, if there isn't that pressure from the people, then there is no incentive to deliver. Democracy is power from the people. If the people rose up and demanded that you must forgive student loan debt, we don't want 10,000, we don't want 50,000, we want it all forgiven. Otherwise, we will walk away. We will fire all these Democrats who will not deliver. If that is what the people on the left did, I can almost guarantee you that this would have been forgiven a long time ago. 100% would have been done. That is how democracy works. You get what you fight for and nothing else. The right is fighting for freedom and anti-woke, whatever. And guess what? That's what they're getting, right? You have DeSantis, this anti-woke bill and all this kind of stuff because their voters demand it. If you don't play into the culture war nonsense, then you will be destroyed. The Democrats have no such threat, which is why they keep giving us crumbs. Absolutely 110%. Our democracy is strong. It exists. It's a real thing. And if you have any doubt about it, look at how much that Republican voters are getting from their politicians. Look at how their politicians, you look at them as they're so spineless. Why are they spineless? Because they're beholden to their voters, not because they are better. They are worse, right? They are, in my view, more corrupt, more dishonest, but because their voters demand that they deliver on these things that the rest of us realize are trivial and nonsense, but their voters demand that they deliver on these things, right? There is no such demand from Democrats. Democrats can win elections after giving crumbs. The biggest consequence of giving crumbs is you get a little bit of voter suppression, right? Which is a good thing, because you're always going to have these close races where even if the Democrats lose, they don't lose by that much. So once again, when they lose by small margins, they get to go on vacations because the Republicans will just block everything they do or try to do. So the pretense gets easier. Now they can do big talk and we're going to propose this bill and we're going to do this and that, knowing that 110% it's all going to be blocked by Republicans, right? So the reason why you guys are not getting student loan forgiveness is because that is not something that is required by the Democrat voter. They would like it. They will tweet about it. They'll make videos about it, right? But it's not something that they demand from their politicians. Therefore, if I were a politician, if I were in the Democratic Party, there would be little incentive for me to deliver on student loan debt. Now, when things got bad, there would be incentive for me to at least go through the motions and make it more real, right? Because rhetoric from pre 2020 election, that's not going to cut it, right? You've been in power for so long, you haven't really delivered on this thing. The ratings are looking really bad. You need to get to the point where you make it feel more real so that you can incentivize your voters to show up, right? The voters for the Democratic Party and those in this country, American progressives on the left, are very weak. We don't really have a strong left wing in this country, right? And one of the big reasons is because independent left-wing media, it's all a joke. They're taking the same mainstream media business model of, pandering to the ideology of their audience. Let's get our little bubbles. Every video is like, oh, the Democrat Party, they suck and the squad sucks, right? Or every video is, oh, Trump sucks, right? It's whatever gets them clicks. These, unfortunately, the way that things work, you have a very small group of people who are leaders, and you have the masses that are really followers, right? So the masses, unfortunately, in this country, rely on their thought leaders, right? They on their own, they're too busy trying to survive. They're focused on their own lives, their own goals, right? So they rely on the media they consume to inform them about the reality of stuff. So when you have the thought leaders on the left who are all in their little bubbles, right? Trump derangement syndrome bubble or Biden derangement syndrome bubble, and almost no one that is willing to go after the duopoly, right? The duopoly are the two parties working together against us. And hardly ever do you see in left-wing independent media a channel that is willing to go to war with both parties. How can you address a problem seriously by only focusing on half of the problem? I'm going to talk about duopoly, hashtag duopoly, but 95% of my content is about Democrats, or 95% of my content is about Republicans. Those who focus 95% of their content about one half of the duopoly are basically the ones that are keeping the duopoly in power. The duopoly requires us to be divided. It needs us to be in our little echo chambers, right? We're over here. We're better than those fake progressives, right? We realize the squad is so fake, and look at those guys. All they care about is Trump, and right? And then you have the other side of Trump is the threat to democracy, and this and that, right? The fact that the thought leaders that a lot of people look up to are too focused on their own businesses, right? Media is a business, right? I am not here as a business, right? I have a full-time job. I do very well. I'm not looking to make any money on YouTube. So I'm able to say whatever. I can say the truth, right? I don't have to try to find an angle of like, oh, let me try to pander to this group or that group. I can tell you the raw, cold, hard truth. And the raw, cold, hard truth is that democracy is powerful. It works, right? But it's not self-service. The way democracy works is we get what we fight for and nothing else. If you're not willing to fight for it, I guarantee you, you're not going to get it. It's not free. It's not automatic. It's self-service. You've got to get up off your ass, right? Having brunch, right? The whole left has been out to brunch since Biden got elected. All the protests and whatever, all that, where is that? Gone, right? Out to brunch. You got to get up off your ass and walk over to the table and serve yourself. And the way you do that is direct action, mass protests, boycotts, direct threats to the Democratic Party that if they don't deliver, you won't vote for them, right? Simply just be like, oh, I don't know these Democrats. I don't even think I'm going to vote. That's not going to work. They need to see like a virus that their base is getting angrier and angrier, and they're getting organized, and they're rising up, and they're uniting against the Democratic Party. They're saying, listen, we have had enough of these empty promises. We've had enough of these crumbs. And if the Democratic Party doesn't get its act together and stop this little pieces around the edges, if the Democratic Party does not deliver, we will in masses. We will not vote for you. In fact, we're going to vote you out. We're going to vote third party. We're going to do anything to make sure that you guys lose. There is no such movement. There is no such threat. which is why you guys get the crumbs that you get. Right? The analogy that I like to use, democracy is a loaded weapon, right? You've got this elephant gun, right? Whatever it is, whatever, think about the biggest gun you can think of, right? And on the side of the barrel is the label called democracy. The American people, because of the lack of leadership on the left, they stand around with this barrel aimed at the ground as the black bear approaches. Whatever the danger is, you're concerned about climate change or healthcare, whatever it is that you're afraid of, that stuff being taken away or not being addressed. That is the black bear approaching. Fascism, whatever it is, it approaches. And the American people, who are being led by these charlatans who are only focused on their own business model, which is all about getting the clicks, they stand with this barrel aimed at the ground. And the bear approaches and starts to tear them apart. And they, in that moment, say, democracy doesn't work. We don't have a democracy. We don't live in a democracy. All the while, they stand with this weapon aimed at the ground, refusing to lift it up and aim and use it the way it was designed to work. You cannot just stand around with this powerful weapon we call democracy while all these threats approach and you don't do anything. People who just vote, you're wasting your time. That's not how democracy works. What is the point of a vote with no demand or threat? What is the point of a vote with no demand or threat? If you just go, oh, we don't want the Republicans to be in charge, and then you show up and you do your vote, and then you go back to Twitter, you go back to Instagram, you go back to your little bubble, you are wasting your time. Voting, if you only vote, you're doing the bare minimum. And without a threat that if they don't deliver, this is going to happen, you are wasting your time. It is a shame that the thought leaders on the left, rather than educating their viewers about how democracy really works, they would say to them nonsense like Jimmy Dore did and many others. I see liberal media saying the same thing. We don't have a democracy. Our democracy is lost. No, we absolutely have a democracy. If the left was putting sufficient pressure on the Democratic Party, they would be getting so much more, but there is no such major pressure. Look at Build Back Better, which had a lot of things that they claim they want, and all I saw was a few dozen people that went out and protest Joe Manchin. When you only can get a few dozen people to go and do some little protest against Joe Manchin, the way democracy works is the message you're sending is that our politicians do not have to deliver. Build Back Better is optional. Only a few dozen people are willing to stand up and protest. That means that if we don't deliver, there will not be major consequences. So why should we bother and betray our donors? Why should the Democratic Party betray the donors who fund them and go and do this Build Back Better thing when only a few dozen people were willing to fight for it? The reason why the left is not getting what they want from the Democratic Party or from our government in general is because the left represents no threat to the establishment. They are nothing more than little noise in the shadows, in the corners, tweeting online. If this student loan forgiveness thing falls apart and none of the student debt is forgiven, is there going to be an uprising? Is there going to be a major price that's going to be paid by the Democratic Party? Not delivering by the Democratic Party ever result in anything more than a little bit of suppression of votes, which means they may lose elections, which means they get their $180,000 salary and they don't have to do any work. So they win. Why on earth would the Democrats ever deliver anything for their base? For what reason? What do they gain? What does the Democratic Party gain from really delivering something really substantial to their base? Their base will not go to war with them. The people who I feel are the most in the know, you look at independent progressive media, right? You look at other independent left-wing media who really get a lot of this. If even they would talk nonsense like democracy doesn't work, I mean, what are you saying? So you know that your viewers have the power to get what they want from the politicians, but rather than telling them the truth, you tell them this idea like democracy doesn't work. So then, okay, you're telling them to don't do anything. So don't vote, don't protest, don't do direct action. Just sit around on Twitter and complain. That's the message that Jimmy Dore is sending out when he says democracy doesn't work, when he knows damn well that if the left represented a threat to the Democratic Party would get their act together and start delivering. But that's not going to happen as long as the people that the left looks up to are only focused on their cliques, their businesses, right? This is how they make a living. This is how they pay their bills. Is by getting the most clicks, the most engagement, right? And the way you do that is by pandering to a certain market, just like any other product, right? If I'm going to sell sports cars, I need to focus on people who are interested in sports cars. I need to pander to them, right? I need to talk their language. I need to find out where they are, make sure I'm advertising where they are, right? If I want to sell trucks, right? I need to appeal to people who like trucks, right? I'm going to have my dealership designed in a way that appeals to them. I'm going to have my salesmen talk in a way that appeals to them, right? So these people in independent left-wing media, just like mainstream media, they choose a market. I'm going to focus on people who are upset with the Democrats. And every day I'm going to feed them this, oh, the Democrats suck, and the fraud squad. Oh, look at the fraud squad. Oh, AOC, this, da-da-da-da. Right? I'm going to make a bunch of videos attacking the very people who I probably used to support, right? Many of these people are the very shit libs they like to talk about. Like they talk about, oh, these guys are shit libs. Look at even somebody as extreme as Jordan, what's his name? Jackson Hinkle, Jordan. Jackson Hinkle. This guy admits that he was a shit lib, right? And a lot of them are, right? They are the ones that used to support these bullshitters that we have in our government, right? They fell for the rhetoric and all this bullshit. And then when they realize, hey, it's bullshit, now they want to go and every day making videos about people who think just like they did. Right? In contrast, I was never on Team Bernie, never on Team AOC, right? I always saw all of this stuff as bullshit, right? I saw American politicians as very fraudulent, very dishonest, right? But that's not what you're going to get from these folks in independent left-wing media. What you're going to get from them is, oh, democracy. We don't have a democracy. We don't live in a democracy, right? So if we don't live in a democracy, which is power from the people, you're saying that we, the people, don't have any power. So you're telling your viewers to do nothing. Go out to brunch. Let the Democrats continue to give you crumbs and just make sure you tune into my channel so I can make you feel good and I can feed into your anger and disappointment. Oh, AOC this and da-da-da-da. Right? Tune in to me so I can, make some money off of your anger. But don't you try to fight for anything because we don't have a democracy. And if we don't have a democracy, there's nothing you can do. Right? If you don't have a democracy, there's no point in doing anything. Right? Anything other than watch my content. Right? Share my videos. Right? That's how the game is played. More corrupt, more dishonest. Hold my beer. Mail-in ballots, ballot harvesting is the biggest fraud. Right. Man, I don't know what to tell you guys. We don't have a democracy. If we did, only 500 countries would decide the presidential election. I don't know what to tell you, man. You can listen to me tell you the truth about what's really going on, or you can continue to be manipulated by propagandists on the left and the right who are only interested in their own businesses. All about clicks. And they will tell you what you want to hear, make you feel like you're part of the good crew, you're on the good side, unlike those other idiots. You can continue listening to them and not notice that as much as they may complain about suppression, those who feed into the ideology of their audience are doing very well on YouTube, right? In fact, the ones who complain about suppression the most are the ones who are doing the best. Million views per video, meanwhile claiming that you're being suppressed. Take a look at what the left-wing media, how they're doing, right-wing media, how they're doing, and then look at how I'm doing. Who gives a middle finger to the algorithm, gives a middle finger to, these tribes. And someone who, I don't need my channel to be successful, right? I don't do this for money. I don't need the money, right? I'm able to tell it like it is. Ask yourself why those who divide us the most do the best, right? Right-wing propaganda channels doing well. Left-wing propaganda channels doing well. Those who tell the actual truth, not so much. Hillary Clinton. So Angry Conservative is telling me about Donald Trump's good friend, Hillary Clinton. I wonder if Angry Conservative noticed that Donald Trump had, oh man, there goes the flag. Somebody with a whole bunch of flags in their Jeep. I bet you Angry Conservative is not aware of how much compliments Donald Trump gave to Hillary Clinton when he won the election. I was shocked myself. I didn't know he did that. When I listened to him, the speech he gave, and all the compliments he gave for Hillary, the person, they were at a wedding together, they used to hang out together. Donald Trump, the guy who wishes well the woman who was, the biggest child sex trafficking person in the world. And Donald Trump has nothing to say. Oh, I wish her well. But he'll attack a child who said something about the environment. Right? Right. Divide and conquer. Let's pretend as if Trump is on the good side and Clinton's on the bad side, or Clinton's on the good side or Trump is on the bad side, rather than realize the reality that these people are all the elites. They all are friends behind the scenes, not literally, of course, working together against the best interests of we the people. But the American people just refuse to wake up. They want to choose which elites are the good elites and which ones are the bad ones, right? I'm going to support Trump and I'm going to go against Clinton, even though they're friends. I'm going to be against the liberal elites and the Democratic Party, but I'm going to vote for a Democrat elite from New York City like Donald Trump. Donald Trump, the Democrat who changed his party affiliation to scam conservatives, he's the guy. The guy who is friendly with the media behind the scenes, because the media done a lot of great things for him, but pretends to be adversarial to them on TV. But these people actually believe the character he plays on TV. They believe the character that DeSantis plays on TV. You have liberals who believe the character that Biden plays on TV. Americans keep choosing the elites that they feel are the good elites. Elon Musk is gonna fight against freedom, fight for freedom, right? Right. Wow, angry conservative. Props on that one. He said he didn't vote. He didn't vote for Trump in 2016 because he thought he was just like Hillary Clinton. Wow. I can appreciate and respect that, man. Anyway, I've been sitting here for probably like 30 minutes while my pancakes have been getting cold in IHOP. That's why I'm here. And I'm screwed because I've been doing major cleaning, trying to set up my unit for Airbnb, because I have 2 tenants that have been living for free for 3 years, and I just can't manage to pay a big mortgage when 2/3 of my tenants aren't paying. So I had to clean up my unit to try and get some extra money, so I can not end up in financial collapse. But as a result of all this cleaning, I lost the keys to my basement. So I was supposed to put a lot of this stuff in storage in my basement, get this stuff out of self-storage, and stop wasting money. $200 a month when I have a basement I can put stuff in. But I don't know where the key is. And unfortunately, things are really tight right now. So the idea of me paying a locksmith right now to go and break that lock is like, that would be bad. Of course I can afford it, but you know, I got to tighten up the screws, man, because it's if I keep on the path that I'm on right now, I'm gonna be in big trouble. So I don't know, man. Today I'm actually on vacation. I spent the whole day looking for the keys. I have not found them yet. That's how I spend my vacation, looking for keys, so I can actually get access to my own basement, so I can put all this junk in there, so I can rent out my unit to make some extra money, so I don't get buried. But anyway, on that note, let me go get my pancakes and get going. Ciao.